The famous Vega Sicilia Unico comes from. It's also in the 70s who Alejandro Fernandez made famous with Tinta Pesquera, which I remember when I started in restaurants, that was probably the most common Spanish wine to see on a wine list was Tinta Pesquera. But where he started his project in 72, these guys have been here over 120 years on this property. This whole area, actually, here through here, is called Castilla León, because it's a land of castles. So you see one giant castle after another in this particular area. In fact, this is only like a mile away from the winery where we're going. But Ribera del Duero, you can see compared to Rioja, it's not as mountainous as Rioja, but interestingly enough, it's the same elevation. You're still at about 2,300 feet above sea level here. What you see here is a little bit warmer climate and drier climate as well. Where Rioja will tend to be more aromatic. In fact, people that like Burgundy, if we're talking about Tempranillo and you're more of a Burgundy person or Pinot Noir person, I will push them into Rioja because it tends to be more aromatic wine. If you're more of a Bordeaux person, this is the place to go. The wines are firmer structured, they have more of a soiliness to them, and that graphite, almost lead pencil aroma that you get out of aged Bordeaux. This is the grape. It is Tempranillo. You can call it Tempranillo and you'll still be correct. Specifically, they call it Tinto Fino because it's the Tempranillo that's adapted to this area, this drier and warmer area. So that's what the Tinto Fino looks like. This particular winery, which is just stellar winery here, called Emilio Moro, is, as I mentioned, 120 years making wine in this location. This is 100% Tinto Fino, so we're looking at a 100% version again. Almost the same amount of aging as the last wine. This particular year, I think they only did 12 months of aging, a combination of French and American oak. But you can feel the structure of the wine. There's a little firmer structure to it. This is a tremendously ageable wine. And you're also looking at what is probably the vintage of the century for a Spanish red wine of 2005. This was the biggest drought in almost 100 years without being hot. So you've got this super long, dry growing season. It was not a huge production year, but you have some of the most cut, physically fit red wines coming out of this vintage. When I came back from tasting 05s in Spain, I was crossing people who were just doing the barrel tastings in Bordeaux in 2005. And they said, what I've seen, the wines are, all the material is there, they're packed with muscle, but they're not heavy, dull wines. They're pushed up, aromatic, beautifully structured wines. That it's the vintage with six-pack abs is basically what 2005 is. Tremendous. The wines that belong on the cover of Physical Fitness magazine. So here you've got, as I mentioned, you'll still get some of the basic flavors. There'll be black cherry, plum type fruit flavors. But again, you'll get a little more of that graphite, and you'll get a little of that soiliness, because there's a limestone character here as well. And this you can do with bigger meats, generally more simply prepared meats, but those are braised veal shanks. Actually, we didn't have those down here. We had them up in Campadas, but it's a good example of something for this type of a wine, very much like you do with Bordeaux. With Bordeaux, you usually pair a meat that's less complex. You do something, you don't necessarily do grilled meats, you do just plain roasted meat. Like this was just falling off the bone veal, is what it is. So it tends to show off the complexity of the wine quite well.